Hey, this is Paige Ruderman, and this is the So Rude podcast. Welcome to the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the So Rude podcast. My name is Paige Ruderman, and I am so excited to welcome a special guest to the show. Today, I am joined by Matt Steward, a Nashville-based luthier, stage tech, prior podcast host, and artist. Born in California, Matt grew up in Phoenix before going to music school and then making his way to Nashville. Since then, he has opened his own guitar shop and begun touring as a stagehand to popular musical duo Brothers Osborne. Matt released his fourth single of 2025 titled Change in October under his artist name Hotelonfire. I met Matt earlier this year when I needed some guitar work done, and he came highly recommended. When we met, we just hit it off, and I am so excited to dig into his journey to Nashville, his work as a luthier, working on the road, his artistry, and more. Matt, welcome to the So Rude podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. And I know I shared a little bit about you and kind of tried to capture a lot of your experience in your bio, but is there anything else you would like to add or anything I may have missed?
Yeah, I think that one thing is it's my specific position is guitar tech. So that might be informative because the stagehand thing, it is technically kind of in that world, but it's more specific. But I'll gladly tap into that and just kind of, but yeah, that's basically it. Beyond music school, I went to Luthier school as well, but they're kind of, related enough. But yeah, I had a whole trajectory of, about 10 years of learning some things and then be like, all right, I've learned enough there. I'm gonna go do some other stuff. And I'm like, I'm done doing that stuff. I'm gonna learn this, and knowledge is cool. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, I love it. And thank you for clarifying. I remember we had talked about that in person, and then when I was preparing things, I was just reading things online, and so I
Yeah.
want to make sure I like honor all the, and I know like how hard you work and all the guitar and that's truly so incredible, and one of the things I was most excited about bringing you on the show to talk about, because it's such a world different than my own that I'm just so curious about like what that looks like, how you even got there, and I know today's conversation is gonna share all those details, so I'm excited to
Yeah.
dig into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you mentioned born in California, growing up in Phoenix. What was that like? When did you move from California to Phoenix?
I was like 10. So yeah, like my early, 10 years. Like, yeah, there's not a lot of memories I have. Like I have them, but it's not like I feel like I grew up in Phoenix. Um, and Phoenix is weird. It is a place that I don't really fancy a whole lot. I'm sorry to shit on Phoenix, but it's just you kind of get trapped there because you can kind of find success in a lot of things. Music, not so much. There's a lot of powerful music scene there, and there's a lot of talented people doing really creative things, and not bound by like a city like such as Nashville. There's kind of like throughout the genres, and it's an industry town. There are kind of blueprints people follow for like genre wise, or they kind of want to fit into a mold so that they can be commodified in a way. Out there, there's very, very little industry ties. So there's some stuff with LA. There's touring stuff, but it's kind of in a few different pockets, and those pockets don't really communicate a lot. Whereas Nashville, everyone knows each other, and it's so close. Within like 20 minutes, you can kind of get anywhere. Hendersonville to West Nashville is like 30, 45 minute drive, but you might have a friend that you go see often that there. In Phoenix, you might not ever see that person that's 45 minutes away. And it's just a huge sprawling thing. And it's really hot. It's really brutally hot. And the summers are rough. It's very dry there. I don't think people should live there. So I have humans aren't meant to, they're mostly supposed to live in like, a green, wet environment with like rain and life, in my opinion. But if there's people that love it out there, and I applaud them. It's just not for me. Yeah, I just fell in love with the South a long time ago. I had family that moved out to North Carolina when I was like probably around when we moved to Phoenix. Everyone left California, my whole like dad's side, and they lived in North Carolina. I just like loved it out there. I'm like, this is green. This is awesome. There's trees, there's seasons. This is so cool. It's like so foreign to me. And like, and on the other hand, there might be somebody who lives in the Midwest who's like, oh, it's always sunny in Phoenix. This is amazing. And I'm like, you enjoy that. I'll take your situation. I want to be cold sometimes. And yeah, like today it's like 22 degrees outside. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Um,
My car said like 18 degrees. I was like,
yeah.
this is a little cold, a little too cold.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll get into why that's detrimental for your instruments too, and maybe in a second. But yeah, growing up in Phoenix was I had a really good close group of friends, and in fact, a few of them have moved out here now, and they work on the road as well. One tours as a musician. We all play music as well, and some of us are hired guns occasionally, but a few of us have gone the guitar tech or drum tech or route where that's a little a different kind of scenario, of course. But yeah, Phoenix, I went to community college. It was cheap, it was affordable. I was able to work through it and get a really valuable education. And I think there's this weird thing in the I was like zeitgeist, I guess is the word or something of our American society that community college is not a good option. And I highly disagree. And it's just a great way to like dip your toes into something like, do I want to learn about this? Like I took gardening for a year, and plant
Cool.
propagation. You get in the chemistry of it and you get into like the nitty gritty and it's really cool. And now I have a skill that I can grow food. And I'm not like, growing enough food for my whole year round, but I have a herb garden and tomatoes and sometimes potato. You learn how to do these things and it's kind of like ties into the primal human thing. And yeah, anyway, you could just go to community college and learn that stuff. And so I started going to school um, for music because I was interested in it. I was like, what's a time signature? I didn't know what it
Yeah.
was. I figured it out. And then I took my friends like, hey, you can take a piano class at community college. I was like, what? That's so cool. And so I just quit all the other classes and took music and I fell in love and went hard. I got a piano or a keyboard at home and um, I was living at home and saved money and I bought it. And then I spent like 3 to 6 hours a day playing piano for years, annoying the hell out of my sister. The next door, she just hears the thump of the weighted keys and me practicing scales. But it paid off because now I'm like I can proficient piano player and it just takes time. And, it's something that made sense for me. And then I taught myself guitar after that. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm getting into the,
No, I love it. And that's so fascinating because I was going to ask you, when did music start? So if I'm following the story correctly, it was really in community college. Was that kind of your first dabble into the music world as far as playing and like performing?
I sang I would like secretly sing. I knew I liked to sing. I remember I wrote my first. I'll never show this to anybody. My first song in the shower. I was like 5 years old. Remember that movie Lost in Space?
Oh my gosh, I don't think I've seen that one.
It was like some movie that came out in the 90s. I think they made a show about it, but I was just like singing the song about Lost in Space in the shower. I was like, that's so cool. But it was so embarrassing to show anybody. And then I was probably 10 or maybe 11 or 12 actually. It was right before junior high, so whenever aged, let's say 11. I did a musical. And I'm not a big musical fan to this day, but at that time I just did it. And I remember the first time I sang and belted in front of people, they're like, and I didn't know I could sing like that. And people were like, oh my God. It was just like a wild experience to like just be free and to like do that. And so that started at that age. It's funny enough, I was 3 years old and I was sounding out Christmas songs and a toy piano my grandma had got for me. And my mom was like, you're gonna have a choice in baseball or piano. I chose baseball. I was like, yeah, I love that they gave me a choice and wanted me to be my own person, which is how I am, who I am today. But it would have been really great if they just kind of forced me to do piano lessons for a while. And it's just funny that like, oh, a 3-year-old, that would be if I had a 3-year-old doing that, I'm like, sorry, dude, you don't get to play
Path
baseball.
chosen, yeah.
Yeah. No, I would be the same way with that, your choice, that's ultimately what's important. But Yeah, so that's all I've always had it, but it just I'm a big believer in the fruit needs to be ripe before you pick it. So at that age, I wasn't ready, and so I did musical. I did like stage production in high school, and then I did some improv like comedy, and I loved music. I loved making funny videos with my friends. I loved doing pranks. We did a lot of like that stuff in high school, and then all my friends were musicians, and I wanted to be able to like play with them, and so then thus community college. And so yeah, I was like 18, and but I learned it really quick because I was really ready for it. And I think some people I think most people learn something better when they're really really wanting to learn it. If you're forced to learn algebra, you're probably not going to do as well. It's going to be a chore because it doesn't like align with who you are. It's like certain things are like a necessity to learn, of course, but like higher advanced math I was taking in high school or even when I started community college, like I didn't even test into the math class. I was like, oh, I suck at math. Like I'm good at some math, but like what am I going to use this for? I don't want, and luckily my parents were like, we don't care if you go to college. We just want you to do what you want to do.
Hmm.
And, and I didn't have a college fund or anything. So I was like, well, I got to pay for it. So I want to take what I want to take. And it paid off. I loved it. I learned so much. And my piano class and my music theory class were in the same room. And your desk was a piano. So like,
Oh,
I
cool.
have a slightly photographic memory. So like, basically the piano is imprinted on my mind all day long. Well, all classes long, and I just took that and ran with it. And yeah, yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
So
So
much about that story. I mean, I totally agree with the community college aspect that there are
mm,
so many states that have great programs that can make going to community college so affordable, and we don't maybe honor them as much as we should because of this desire to have like a state school or whatever degree. And so like
yeah.
I love the fact that you were like, if I'm in a cash flow going to college, I'm going to do it at an affordable rate.
hmm
And I'm going to study things that interest me because, to your point, you don't kind of know what's going to bubble to the top until you expose yourself to it. And so, so cool. And I will admit, I want to say to what you were saying around like, I was ready for it. I think that's so true. But also, some people have an innate skill of just like picking things up around music more quickly, and if you
True.
showed that exposure at a young age where you were able to kind of pluck out notes, it's almost just like you were continuing on that path a little bit later on.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. I mean, some things people are born, there's some people like who are brilliant at math just naturally. So,
I'm not one of the addition subtraction, I got you. Anything
yeah.
beyond that,
Yeah.
we
A
have a
plus
calculator.
B divided by the square root. Nope, you can do that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I can figure it out, but I don't really want to. Doesn't like excite me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, everyone's got their talents, and I think a lot of kids who are not fully developed mentally or physically at 18 are forced to acquire shit tons of debt in school and for something that they don't end up using or not even enjoying, like the college experience. Like, well, the college experience now is
Dead.
risen, I don't know, probably 20 times the inflation rate since the 70s. It's more expensive than, okay, so okay, frame it like this. All right, you want to go to you're 18, you want to go buy a house for $250,000? I mean, I don't know where you would buy a house that cheap. Maybe in like,
Today, yeah.
a dead auto industry town in Michigan or something, but you have that option, or we can take you to Belmont. Well, yeah, you can go with 250 grand in debt, no problem. We have no problem giving you that debt. But when it comes to like building wealth or building equity in your life for, investing in like a business or something, you can't get that kind of loan. But for whatever reason, school is like this thing that, and in the past, it did get you somewhere, and it still can. But for the price, especially for music, I see a lot of people who, did you go to college?
I did go to college, and I did not go to for music.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember we talked about that at one point, but yeah, and like I'm not putting any shade on anybody who's done this, but going to a music school, most of them are pretty expensive. Berkeley and Belmont are the first two that come to mind, and I know there's other like small liberal arts college that, but regardless, like, you're coming out of debt with, or out of college as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old with a lot of debt. And you have a whole life. That's your time of life to like experience and learn who you are and start the process. Cause like it's a forever trajectory of learning who you are, but the 20s are really, really important for that. And doing that and coming out of it, and your first gigs that you get are going to be like $100 and the $150. And the more I've learned about the touring industry, the more I learned about there's not that much money in it, and in that for like musicians. And in some cases there are, but like it's just a very, I mean, the music world in general, it's hard. It's very hard to make money in, and especially when you have $200,000 of debt.
Hanging
Maybe
over your
more. I
head
mean, I don't know what it costs a year there now. It's probably $50,000.
at like a 15 to 25% interest rate or whatever it is they're borrowing
Yeah.
it at.
Yeah. And if you're lucky to have parents who can afford that, that's awesome too. But yeah, that's kind of my mentality. I'm like, how can we be efficient with our time? Because money is time, and time is limited, extremely limited, and you don't ever know when you're going to go. And you have to make good use of that. And like, there is a logical thing behind it. There is a point where that can go too far. So you have to find the balance of like, okay, I'm going to risk this investment of my time to get something back from it, whether it's fulfillment or money or whatever. But like, I think it's important to not waste that time. We don't have a lot. You don't know how much you have. So just, especially if it's something you don't want to do. Like,
Yeah.
there are certain things, like sometimes you don't want to work when you don't feel well. You have to work. Sometimes you just got to pick your, bootstraps up or whatever, and then go, grit your teeth and go do it. That's one thing. But like, your parents are like, we want you to be a doctor or something. We're like, I don't want to do that. And like, there's a lot of people that don't want to do these things. And, if that feeling's strong enough and you pursue what you actually want to do, it's really worth the payoff. But it is a hustle to get there. And it's not an easy time to be a young person right now for how expensive everything is. And anyway, so.
Yeah.
I'll get in my soapbox real quick if you don't stop me.
Okay, no worries. And I think it's like worth hearing for people following the creative pursuit, and so much about what you were saying around your story of like making fun videos with your friends and like always being kind of down for trying something new. I think that speaks to just someone who's a natural creative, and creative encompasses so many different ways of, making things. Um
Sure.
And I love what you said around, I just wanted to be able to play instruments with my friends. And that was kind of like a driver to starting to learn instruments and learning instruments and how to play music. And
Mm.
I'd love to hear from you how that led you to Nashville, because you live in Nashville now. So what was that journey like?
Oh yeah. So in 2019, I had a friend that lived out here, a loose acquaintance who lived out here, and I remember it was probably like 2017 I met her, and she like posted a photo of Nashville. I was like, that looks really pretty. It's like green there. It's like really green. Those clouds look awesome. Like summer clouds in Nashville are really epic and just really lush. I mean, in the South there's a beauty to it. As much as it's muggy and kind of miserable and hot in some times of the summer, but like it was just really pretty. I was like, whoa, what am I doing out here? And I thought I wanted to move to Asheville, North Carolina, where my family was, but I would have not enjoyed it there. I like that town, but it's only a place to visit. It's just kind of it's too small, I think, for me. But anyway, so there was that. I had a pull to the South. I loved coming out here. We would come out for music festivals to Arkansas, a few years in a row. And I was like, I really love how I feel when I'm out in that part of the world. And around 2019, I was working at a bar. So for my 20s, I worked in the restaurant and bar industry, and I rose up because there was a lot of opportunity to be creative and put cocktails on the menu. And I was trying to start like a liqueur company, and I still make liqueurs for like presents for Christmas and stuff. I just made a bunch recently,
That's so
but
cool.
yeah, I had a friend of mine owns a winery in Arizona. There's a big wine scene out there. Really good grape areas for growing wine. But anyway, he taught actually Maynard from Tool. If you ever heard of Maynard from Tool, the singer from the band Tool, he makes wine, and so my friend was his wine mentor, and so he's got a winery. It's called Page Springs Winery, Page Springs Cellars. Really, really lovely guy, Eric. And I was really heavily in that industry, and so him and I were like thinking about starting, you know, a company or something, and it was just something that I was really gunning towards. But then I went to Nashville for the first time in 2019, and I was doing music in Arizona. I was playing like shows every quarter, pretty much. I was putting a lot of time into it and just playing and getting better. I went to Nashville for the first time because I was working at a bar, met this couple who was from Arizona, and they're telling me about Nashville. I was like, oh my God, that sounds awesome. It just so happens that I chose to go out at this one like weekend in January, and the bar owners that I worked at this like really like bougie tiki bar that was like really busy and really fancy cocktails and stuff, and like I had a lot of ownership in it because I like, there's 50 drinks in the menu. I had to learn a lot of stuff, and so you just get really like, you know, it felt good. It was like kind of fulfilling a lot of creative space for me. But at the end of the day, I knew music was ultimately what I wanted to do, and I was like, well, what if I used the bar world and made a liqueur company so that I could pay for myself to do music? And so that was kind of the route I was toying with. But I went to Nashville for the first time. I was just blown away. Even in January, when it's like
When
pretty.
it's cold and dark.
I loved it. I loved that it was like raining and like was cold, and I was like, I know it gets pretty here, but like if I fall in love with it, then I'm sure I'll fall in love with it in the other seasons.
True.
Uh, and so yeah, I went there and kind of went to a few different places in East Nashville, and my friends showed me around, and like they let me stay with them, and then but at the same time I had booked that trip, the bar owners they booked a whiskey picking trip. So they were opening up another bar where they were picking out single barrels of whiskey from distilleries. And so there's their own pick of their own whiskey barrel, which is really cool. So I went on a few days in Nashville, and then I met with the owners of my bar, and then did like 7 or 8 distillery tours and picked a bunch of whiskey. And I was like, it was so fun. It was a really, really awesome trip, working with, the owners of the place I worked for, and they just like hooked it up and paid for a bunch of like great meals and stuff.
Hmm.
And it was awesome. And then, my tummy hurt a lot though, because I was drinking a lot of booze, was eating a lot of food. I'm like, I need a break.
Yeah, I need to go home.
Um, And I was just like, "Yep, I'm gonna move there. Cool." And so
Mm.
I kind of made that decision, and everyone knew that probably around like summer of that year. And I was working towards it, saving up money. I was like getting ready to buy a house out here because working at that bar really made really, really good money. And in late 2019, I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna make a trip." So I went back in 2020 before the pandemic, before a tornado that hit,
Wow.
and I was like, the first day, I was like, without a doubt, I'm moving here. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna do that. Was starting the process of starting to get pre-approved for a house, and then the tornado hit, then the pandemic hit, and everything changed. And I was like, well, shit, I don't want to do bars anymore. I hate like I was getting physical therapy every week because my arms from like shaking cocktails and stirring, and just like it was just a lot of physical activity that is not sustainable. And talking at a loud bar is really, really bad for your voice. And I was going to speech therapy. I was like, what am I doing? I don't need to be going to speech therapy. And like I'm staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning every day and waking up at 11. It kind of baked that sleep schedule into my life for quite a few years. It's been still kind of like I still a later guy. And then pandemic hit, and I was like, well, when I went out to Nashville, I went to a songwriter or a open mic basically at the Bowery Vault. You ever been there?
Hmm. I
Yeah, and
haven't been, but I've heard of it.
yeah, so I just played a song, and it went well, but like I saw a lot of people there who were really, 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 really good. And I was like, and I was decent, but I was like, oh shit, I gotta keep up. And so luckily the pandemic hit, and it was like I know for a lot of people it wasn't the case, but for me it was pretty amazing. It was like scary and stuff, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this time as a break. I'm getting unemployment. I was working at a butcher shop my buddy owned, and I was getting free food. I was just looking for chickens. I was cooking. exercising and gardening and playing music. And I just spent probably 50 hours a week on guitar
Wow.
and getting lessons. Just, it was like, I know I need to be better here. And I know I was a good enough keyboard player, but I was like, I want the guitar thing to be a little more strong, and got better. And then started to modify my guitars, but I was like, I don't know what I'm doing and I want to learn. So I asked this guy who owned a shop and if I could apprentice for him, and he said, go get a degree at Roberto Venn and then I'll hire you. I was like, what is that? And so there's a trade school out there that's been there since the 70s called Roberto Venn School of Luthiery. And I was like, whoa. And I had money saved, not a lot, but enough to like cover some trade school money. And so I just took the chance and spent the rest of what I had um, on trade school and kind of emptied out. And I moved here with like nothing. And I was like, this is an interesting turn of
Gamble.
events, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, so that was like October of 2020, and then I moved here in December of 2020. I was supposed to have moved with a friend. He was going through some personal stuff, so he had to bail, and then I had a job lined up, then he ghosted me. And so I was like, well, I have no job or nowhere to live. What? And I have 2 weeks until I said I was leaving. I was like, holy shit. I was like freaking out. Found just because of someone I had met in Nashville because of how strong the community is. I really like it was a very, very strong community out here. And that's what I loved about it because Arizona was like pockets of like medium communities that didn't really, you know,
Overlap.
yeah, yeah. And it might be different now. I don't want to throw too much hate at Phoenix. I'm sorry, Phoenix. You guys keep doing your thing.
Phoenix, your cut.
Uh, yeah. And yeah, so sorry it's so long-winded, but I'm just trying to
No,
remember.
that's okay. I find it interesting, like how it was like one step led to the other, and how like taking a chance on this conversation or this relationship or this connection led to the next step. I think that is so fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important. People need to do that. And not everyone's wired the same. I'm wired differently than you are. You're different, and we all have our individual unique traits, but if you have that in you, like it's just networking, and it's just like you be nice and cool to people and be a good hang, and the hang is like what they say, what they've always said in Nashville, really is everything. Like you could be the best guitarist or the best piano player, the best drummer, whatever. But if you were like a sour, sucky person, you're really less likely to get gigs. And like, not sometimes you're in a bad mood, but like you have to be able to even communicate like, hey guys, I'm sorry. And if you're on the road, especially, I'm in a bad mood today. If I'm weird, that's why. There's I'm sorry, please bear with me. I'm going through a lot. Like people just keep that in. They don't say anything, and then they're a sour little baby, and everyone's like, this person sucks. Get them off, and then they lose a gig because there are a million
Having
people,
a bad
especially
day
what was that?
because they were having a bad day or something.
Yeah, or whatever. They just you have to have a degree of emotional intelligence to be able to like, and some people have that, but like I know a lot of people that they have a hard time with it, and like I don't know, you just gotta be cool and be nice, and it turns out people want to talk to you if that's the case, and that's what I've learned through a lot of people, and so that's one of the first things I learned when I came out here. I was like, oh, I already can network, and I enjoy meeting people and finding ways to collaborate, and because collaboration is such a huge part of music in general, but this huge part of everything, business in general. Like I now I'm a business owner, and there's a lot of collaboration in that. I have dealer accounts with local companies or dealer accounts with guitar parts companies across the country. And I'm a small fish, but I it's cool to be able to like work with the government to get a license to be able to do this kind of stuff. We can get into that, but um anyway, moved to Nashville in December of 2020, and I started working at Gibson Guitar because I was like, well, that will be a job. I did not want to work at a factory. I did not want to work for a big corporation, but the first few months of living here was still very locked down. So I was like, well, I'm not really seeing the life open up anyway. So I'm like, I know it's going to, so I'm just going to wait it out and just work a lot of hours here and just like do that. And I met a lot of good friends through it, and in May of that year, I quit and worked at a restaurant and did that for about a year and a half until I transitioned to, I was just casually taking work on at the home shop and getting better. And then I got a job working for a guy named Patrick Boyle. He's a guitar tech as well on the road, and he is one of my mentors, and he's a wonderful man. And he hired me, and I kind of helped run his shop while he was on the road. So I learned about a lot about touring, and my best friend in the world works with him as well now, which is really cool. So I got helped get him a job on the road. He's a drum tech, and yeah, just learned a lot about that world. And I was like, at some point I'll be touring. And then eventually I got a gig last year and I was touring. And then a friend called me and then again, it's who you know. A lot of it's who you know. A lot of it's like being cool to people. I was not cool to this person because I knew I'd gain anything from him. I just was genuinely cool. And because we genuinely like each other, we're both, colleagues of sort. We both do guitar repair in Nashville and are musicians. And he's like, "Hey, I have a gig for you if you want it." And it's with Brothers Osborne. I was like, "Oh my God, I have to say yes to that." And yeah, so I've been there about a year now. So yeah, that's kind of my trajectory in should have TLDR. Too long didn't yeah.
Well, that it's truly fascinating. I love people's stories. I think that's why people love podcasts and just like tuning into like the background of how do we get from point A to point B. Because it's one thing to come in and just be like, "Hey, I work on the road with this group." But it's fascinating to hear how one step led to the other. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy you mentioned that relationships and being cool and the hang. It's like this, it's so hard to quantify, but it is one of the most important parts of building a path here in Nashville. And
Yeah.
maybe even one of the biggest hurdles that people have to jump if they're not able to kind of master that emotional intelligence that you were talking about of like just being able to get along with other people doing the same thing as you.
And I do want to I don't want to say this like you have to learn some people are born with different like neurodivergent stuff that I want to make sure that I'm saying like some people are unable to so whether it's learned or it's usually they're born with something. Like I don't want to discount that is the case. And that could be hard for some people, especially on the autism spectrum and with social stuff. And there's childhood trauma that some people might have that make them certain ways, but I think there's a way to learn how to be a hang for most people. I just want to make sure I'm being careful not to, to say anybody's.
Oh, totally. And even just being aware enough to say, like, people have innate skills, things that come a little bit more easy to them than other things, but doesn't mean
Yeah.
you can't learn. I mean, hearing from you now, you work it as you have your own shop, instrument repair, I would say mainly guitar focused, in the
Yeah, a
shop.
lot of bass, mostly guitar, bass, acoustic. I mean, I do everything. I don't do violins. I can maybe do some violin work, but I don't really. There's violin guys in town. I send them there.
Yeah. But you learned, you work with between working with different people or attending different programs, you're able to learn that skill. And
Yeah.
I think that's so inspiring, especially for someone tuning in who might also be interested in going down like guitar repair and like opening up their own shop. I'd love to like hear from you. What was like the hardest or the scariest part about launching your own business?
Well, I did a lot of research and understanding what I would need to do and asking other people what I needed to be able to acquire like parts deals or wholesale pricing on strings or parts or whatever. And I reached out on Instagram, and that's part of the community. Is like I knew somebody who I was like, "Hey, does anyone have a tax person or CPA?" I asked a bunch of people who were like heavy in the music industry. I'm like, "Who do you use for CPA?" And one guy got back to me, and he's like, "Kathy." I'm like, "Kathy." And no, now I tell everybody about Kathy, and Kathy's great.
Shout out, Kathy.
Yeah, Kathy Marola. Yeah, she's awesome. She's guided me through everything and kind of helped me get set up with like it's free. Also, you can go on the SBA, the Small Business Administration's website, and you can acquire business loans. You can get a free EIN. Some people will try to charge you $80 to give you an EIN, an employer identification number. So it's like something required to have a business license. I believe. No, it's a business account at a bank. I think business license, you just need I can't remember all the gritty details. I don't want to like, give anybody advice that's wrong, but um, in order for me to have gotten a business like banking account, I need an EIN. So I got
Mhm,
that. I think it's also required if you want an LLC.
mhm.
I'm just a sole proprietor, and there's ways to do that without having to you don't have to file the $300 LLC payment. And she kind of walked me through what the differences are and what my needs are. She's like, "You're good on what you're doing now." And so I have business insurance as well. I guess I'm just trying to frame out what it looks like a little bit. I don't know what was the scariest thing. I was just like, well, I part of me trusts the process, but part of me also has like fear and a control thing because like, you know, I'm a flawed person. I have my own stuff. And control is a little bit of a thing. Not in that like I'm a maniac to people I work with. I like knowing kind of where money's coming from or just being aware. I'm aware of how much it costs to be alive nowadays, and I also am aware of every bit of money that I make is taxed. And so I keep very good track of my records of what I'm paying for parts, whatever costs for my business, so I can write off. This whole space, my whole garage, is dedicated to Luthiery or music. So it's a whole write off because I'm a musician and an artist, and it's not a lot of money I earn from music, but that, and then the bulk of my money is touring, and then the home shop. So I could write this whole space revolves around all of that. Um, And so I like the part of me that's most fearful is like some months where you're like, oh, I don't have enough money for my bills. And
Mm.
luckily I save but it's not like I have this endless supply. It's like, oh, I have a few weeks and then I'm back to zero. And that happened quite a few times where it's not fun, but pushing through that has gotten me to where I am now. And me and my fiance, which is crazy to say out loud, we got pre-approved to buy a house. And
Congrats.
yeah, and you get approved for a lot more than you might think you do. But combined income helps. But also people can buy a house with their friend. You can buy a house with a few friends if you want. So it doesn't have to be this whole thing. You just have to, there's a lot of cheat codes out there for uh the lower end of the economic spectrum and a lot of grants available. So there's an industry fund that we're going to apply for. It's called the Nashville Industry Fund. It's for anyone who's a musician or uh, in the restaurant world. I believe you have to be in that community industry for like 5 years, or you have to like have lived in Nashville for 5 years. They have a website. They're great. I went to one of their events, and yeah, they give you down payment assistance. So
Wow.
between some stuff that we have saved up plus that, it's wild being at that point where I was trying to buy a house pre-pandemic, and then everything I lost I not lost, but I invested everything I had into building the blocks, and it's a 5 year transition, and those transitions are not comfortable. And I'm assuming I'll have another transition in my life, and they're not comfortable, especially in that the price of everything went up insanely in that time. Remember 2022 out here, like how are how is American cheese $7?
No,
Like I don't ever buy American cheese, but I was making burgers for 4th of July. I'm like, what is happening? And so everything went
literally.
ape shit. And so as you're transitioning careers and that happens, it's tough. It is. There was moments where I was just like so stressed out, and it's like unhealthy to be that stressed out. And so, I struggle with like stress management sometimes, and being on the road, we can get into it, is stressful too. And it's all how you handle it. And like therapy is a good thing. And getting help and resources and tools to be able to handle what life throws at you. Because like at the end of the day, the stuff I'm talking about, although it's like within my own frame of reference, like hard to deal with, it's still one. It's the most fun I've ever had in my life. I'm having the most fun I've ever had. I'm having a wonderful life. There's months where I've only, I don't take a lot of guitars on, but I have tours, and I do
Hmm.
a few shows, and then it's like this, you get a bunch of money at once, then you get to chill for 2 weeks. And that's a weird thing where I'm like, I have nothing to do. And around Thanksgiving, people were like not hitting me up about guitar repair. So I was like, I'm just gonna play some video games. I haven't played video games for years. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And
More
yeah,
freedom. on your
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah. So there is a freedom in it, but in the grand scheme of things, and I think we live in this still, even though it's expensive, we have so many problems. We kind of live in a fairy tale world. We don't have, there's a lot of bad places in this world to live, and America is still, there's still a lot of, we're still like, pretty up there in terms of quality of life. You can get meat at any store. Any store, go to any gas station, there's meat there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's not good meat. It's like Slim Jims, but like
Right.
we solved the food thing. Like there was still hunger in the States, of course. I'm not trying to negate that, but we've kind of solved, food in a lot of ways. And that's a whole thing. But so within grand thing, I zoom out sometimes. I'm like, man, I have it good. It's sometimes I need to zoom out in order to be like, these little small things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis of stress and like fear of like, where's my next money coming from? How am I gonna be able to, do this, is this, that, or that? Like, oh, you're gonna be all right. This and trusting the process. And I've never been without work. Well, actually, one week I had nothing to do. And I was like, this is
It's
weird.
weird.
But
Yeah.
I've had since 2023. I started in 2022 really taking on work in Nashville, but like 2023 was officially my business launch, and I'm about to hit my third year, which is crazy. And
Congrats.
thank you. The whole time I haven't been without work, which so it's like luckily in Nashville, everybody is very, very strong on word of mouth and
Yeah.
I haven't advertised. People just, you know,
Which is how we connected.
yeah,
I mentioned to I take guitar lessons with a guy named Nick, and like love working with Nick. He's great. And one day I was having some guitar issues, and I was just like, where do I go? Because like there is like that really big guitar chain that a lot of people might start with, but don't
yeah,
always get the most quality. It's not the same people every time you walk in the door. So I happened to just mention to Nick, I'm like, hey Nick, do you know anybody? He's like, well, here's two recommendations. And I reached out, and yeah, word of mouth is like such a big piece of the puzzle.
yeah.
Um, Also, I just really wanted to highlight what you said about zooming out, and like we all can get bogged down in the details and the day-to-days, and whenever we have an opportunity to kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture and be like, I'm doing the thing that 3 years ago me thought was crazy, is like such an important part of the story.
I
So I'm
know,
super
yeah.
glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I was talking with a buddy. He's a session drummer in town, and he's that my last single he played drums on. He's like a really sweet, awesome hang. He's just like the dude has it locked down. He's a very, very good drummer, but he's been upgrading his studio for years. And I mean, I think I met him in 2019 when I first came out here, actually. And not like super close as a friends, but we stay in touch. And like he's a really solid human, and like just cool to see him upgrade. And so I was talking to him. I saw him at a bar a few weeks ago, and I'm like, do you ever just zoom out and just see like, look at like, do you have a picture of your first studio setup when you first started? And he's like, holy shit, that's a good point. Like you have this starter kit that you start off with, like a studio or a guitar rig or whatever, pick a thing, and then years down the line of acquiring gear and trading and working hard, and it's not it takes a while to build a foundation, and then all of a sudden you look at you're like, oh my God, I've worked my ass off, and I have a new computer. I have an audio interface that sounds awesome. I have a microphone. I have headphones. I have mixing. I have monitors, really nice, computer speaker or studio monitor speakers to be able to. I sound like such a monitor speakers, but monitors like that makes music sound awesome. And I love just sitting in here and just listening to music and just like enjoying, the spoils of my labor. And I think it's important to zoom out to be like, yeah, like in your life, you can be like, well, when I first moved here, if you find a picture, because that's the great thing about pictures in these stupid phones that we're addicted to, they have the ability to capture like moments that are like, you can just search, like, what happened in January 2020. I'm like, oh my God, I was in this little tiny ass apartment in East Nashville. It was fine, but it was just really small. And I'm like, I've gotten rid of all my stuff. I moved out here with like they didn't have U-Hauls at the time, small enough. They only had the huge ones. I'm like, I don't have 3 grand to drop on a U-Haul. And so Dad luckily helped me out, and he rented for a few $100, rented a minivan and drove out with
Mhm.
me. So a minivan full of my shit and my Hyundai Elantra full of stuff, and it was a cool thing. We just call each other like, "Hey, how you doing?" And we're just driving across the country together. It was a really, really good experience, and he helped me move in, and just I'm lucky that I had that help, and but yeah, it's just wild moving across the country with you got rid of everything. And so I even didn't bring a piano. I didn't bring a keyboard because I couldn't fit it or a bike. And so,
Wow.
well, I sold all that and then I eventually bought a keyboard around like May or June of that year. But I had guitars and whatnot. But it was just yeah, it's just wild to
Think about that time.
occasionally look back at that time and be like, oh, look where I'm at now. This is cool. Like zoom out. It's important to zoom out, people. Like just take a second to just look where you're at because we get so caught up internally and we're in this like bubble of just like plowing through time just to like make ends meet. And you have to like you look at it from zoom because other people might look at my life and be like, I wish I had that life, I wish I could just
Mhm.
like and for me, I'm like, oh, I have to, hauling
XYZ.
I'm
Yeah.
sick. I'm like on the road. I'm sick as hell, and I'm hauling gear. I'm not complaining or negative about it, but I'm like, damn, I'm like hauling gear and I don't feel well, and it's really loud, and I'm a little bit stressed because I want to make sure these instruments sound good for this show, and I feel like shit, and
Yeah.
uh, and I'm not sleeping well on a tour bus, like, but I'm like also like people would like die to be on a tour bus, and so it's like. When we get in our own little pockets of our own realities, we forget what the frame of reference that other people might have, and you're like, oh, I'm actually doing really cool stuff, and I need to be grateful and graceful, I guess, with my like inner child who's just like trying to make it work. You're like, hey, dude, like zoom out for a second. Life is short. Just you got everything you need,
Mhm.
and if you don't, like find out what that is and work towards it. But yeah.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I'm excited to dig into tour life too, because I think that's such like a behind the wall kind of thing that I think a lot of people in music don't always get the opportunity to, or maybe they haven't experienced it yet. But really quick, I have like two quick questions, guitar
Yeah, sorry,
questions.
I'm just talking so much.
That's okay. It's fun.
Get carried
Uh,
away.
so okay, what is your like go-to fix or improvement or hack to make an instrument sound its best?
Whoa. What kind of instrument? Like, want
I
to
would say
pick one?
guitar. Like, yeah,
Acoustic or electric?
acoustic electric.
Both?
Well, like when it's the acoustic that you can plug in.
Oh, to make it sound better?
Yeah.
Turn your tone knob down a little bit. A lot of like stock acoustic pickups sound really tinny and you've been to writers' rounds, like sometimes those guitars sound like shit. So just maybe ask the sound guy, like, hey, can you just shave off a little high end and kind of it warms it up and make it sound a little more rich. Or if you have like an onboard control, there's plenty of pickup options like that helps. Also for tuning stability, if you ever change your own strings, stretch those strings. And once you think you stretch them enough, keep going. Before I hand the artist I work for his guitar, I've had stretched the strings 30 to 50 times. It's a annoying thing, but it really beats him playing a chord and having to tune his G string in the middle of a set, interrupting his flow. I'm there to support him producing a performance for people who pay good money to be there. So that's your role that you choose. So tune the guitar. Yeah. So for your own guitar, like a lot of people also retune when you capo. Every time you capo to a new capo, it's not, you have to tune to that capo because the guitar is not a perfect in tune instrument. There's small discrepancies where some notes up the neck are flat, some are sharp, and also a capo, it pulls the strings sharp sometimes if you because it presses a lot of pressure down. So like sometimes just double check it before you do it. Um, and the more I produce music and more I like make my own music and mix music and tune vocals and hear all like I'm really sensitive to tuning now. I'm like, damn it. I kind of like I don't want that in a way, but like it's I can't unhear it. And sometimes it sounds good. Sometimes out of tune can be the right move. in certain ways, and that formula is not like a set in stone thing. But yeah, I guess on an acoustic, if you're playing acoustic electric, just shave your tone down a little bit so it's not as bright and some yeah, some of those pickups are just kind of yeah.
Yeah. What about electric? Because you asked about the difference. What would be your go-to on an electric?
Uh, it's funny because all this stuff is again, I don't know if I even said that, but it's preference. Like when what I hear, I like certain things. So other people might like brighter things and more. Everyone's ears are different. But for electric to, you can adjust your pickup height. And actually, I have an electric guitar right here to kind of an example. So
We love an on-demand
yeah,
sample.
I'm in my studio and I got everything. So these are pickups. That's the neck pickup. That's the bridge pickup. These little metal things. What they have are magnets. Essentially, a pickup is a magnet with a thin single coil of hair thin copper wire wrapped around it. 8,000 times, 5 to 10,000 times on average. And these are called humbuckers. There's two single coils in them. And what they do is they buck the hum. Most single coil guitars have a problem where they pick up this thing called 60 cycle hum. It's just like low, like kind of, it's hard to recreate as a human, but this noise. And some people will bring me a guitar like, this guitar's noisy. I was like, all right, well, let's plug it through my rig and it's here. I'm like, cool, there's that. I'm like, are you hearing that? I'm like, yeah. Well, point it at the fluorescent light, it gets louder. Point it away, it's quieter. Sometimes it'll pick up the radio, and you'll hear like the Mexican radio, and it's like this. You're like, whoa, where's that coming from? And it depends on the venue. It's like, um, it's just old technology. Guitars pickups are old technology. So basically, magnetism was this huge pivotal technology in like, early 1900s. It was everything. And we're still dealing with, it's 2025. We're still dealing with 100-year-old basic like technology of magnets. And so what the strings that are made out of metal, what they do is they disrupt, see these little like screws? Those are the different pole pieces. So those are the magnetic pole pieces. You can there's two adjustment screws on each side of the pickup where if you tighten it, usually it raises the pickup height like there, or you can lower it that way. And so this is a treble side of the guitar. This is the bass. If I want it to be a little more bassy, I could just raise the pickup height a little bit on the bass side. It's like an EQ. So you're basically EQing your guitar. And I encourage everybody to do it to find their own preference. And bear in mind, if you go too high, it'll hit the strings. And if you get too close to the strings, it pulls them out of intonation. So there's a sweet spot. And that's part of what makes electric guitars, you can make them sound a little bit better by adjusting those pickup heights. Um, but the metal string, I'll pick this back up, disrupts the magnetic field of these pickups, and it creates voltage. It creates a small amount of voltage that you then send to an amplifier, and it amplifies that signal in such a way that you can hear it through a speaker. It's just crazy. It's so weird. We're basically conjuring voltage out of the ether by just like disrupting magnetic field, and you can. It's wild in some ways. Like, so headphones are just speakers. If I plug my headphones into a 1/4 inch jack on a preamp, and I could sing through my headphones, and you get a really cool kind of like muffled, like kind of like a megaphone kind of sound. So you can sing through headphones. It's basically wiring a speaker backwards. It turns into a microphone. They're just weird,
That's
cool.
so cool.
Yeah. So tangent. Sorry, I do that. Adjusting your pickup height is kind of a good way to make your guitar sound a little bit better. And it's just, toy around with it. And if there's not really any way, sort of, if you heard that, there's like an event reminder on my computer. But
Yep.
yeah, just toying around with tweaking things. And not everybody's someone who wants to tweak, so that's what I'm here for. Is like, I'll do that for you. Like a friend of mine, she's a musician and she's in a touring band, and she's a wonderful, sweet person. And she's like, I have this noise in my guitar. I'm like, she's like, oh, can I bring my rig? I'm like, bring everything, please. I love when somebody brings me their rig. That way I can diagnose, is it coming from the
Mm.
guitar? Is it coming from your cables? Is it coming from your pedals? Where is this? And how can we improve it? And so she brought me everything, and she has I was just said they're single coil and they're humbuckers. The humbucker has a second single coil, which basically cancels out that hum.
Okay.
So it's this electrical cancellation. And she has a guitar that has humbucker, single coil, and and it's a Stratocaster, and so she's always playing the neck pickup, which is a single coil, and it sounds really good, but it has that hum. She has this noise, and some venues it's worse. I was like, "Yep, that's how it goes," and I was like, "Listen to this," and I switched it to the bridge pickup, which is a single coil. It went away. I was like, and that's the example of what, so then what we did, the solution was to order a noise canceling single coil pickup. And so basically they're a single coil sized humbucker. So it fits in the same slot that a single coil pickup would fit in on her pick guard. We don't have to modify it or order a new pick guard. We can just drop it in, super easy, connect it. Good, you don't have any noise now. I mean, it's going to sound a little bit different, of course, but yeah, technology's gotten better in that so that you can have, you know, a different option really quickly without, and just these small solutions that you have to figure out. And this is kind of ties into the road too. There's always these small, tiny, stupid things you figure out that you develop an intuition for based off exposure and experience, and you eventually know you're like, I know that sound, I know what this is coming from, I know how to fix it.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And when you were talking, it's so clear how knowledgeable you are about like how the instrument works and how you can like troubleshoot when you're talking to people about the problems that they're experiencing. What skills would you recommend? Like, hey, you throw a dart in Nashville, you're going to hit a guitar player, and different skill levels, different experience, etc. But like, what skills would you say it's very important for anyone that plays guitar to learn? And then what are the things that you're like, you should really come to a professional when you want to start digging into this?
Yeah, love that. Well, and everyone's different. I think everyone should learn how to restring at least once. Just try to do that, and I'll teach it to people. Yeah, yeah. I think didn't you post about the?
I did. I actually had a friend show me, which was great, but
I was like,
I
why
did
didn't
not
you?
know how.
I was like, maybe she'll text me, and then I got busy and forgot. I was gonna reach out to you, like, hey, I'll teach you.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
yeah,
I should have I like literally that was so short after I'd saw you too, which was kind of
yeah,
funny.
buy me a coffee, and I'll teach you how to do it.
I'm gonna take you up next time because the friend was great and I was so appreciative, but they did the whole thing and then I left with the change strings. I'm like, this
Great.
is great. And I watched and I'm like, I don't know if I still know
Yeah.
how to do this myself.
Well, let's do a
Perfect.
string teaching lesson. Yeah, honestly, the way I learned was I watched Taylor Guitars, how to restring a Taylor guitar on their video series from like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, and I learned, and I'm like, cool, that's actually how, I really learned how to do it. And now, I mean, I kind of want to, I wish I could count. I have records of all the guitars I worked on for the most part, like probably 90% of everything I've ever worked on in the last since I started the business at least.
Wow.
And I could count how many guitars I've restrung. It's a
Oh,
lot.
really?
Yeah. I mean, at
If you had
least
a guess, like what kind of number are you up to now? Thousands?
2000.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe more. I don't know. I mean, because I restring seven guitars on the road, but I restring every two or three shows. Some have a little longer life. For bass, I have a longer life too because I'm also a bass tech. I think everyone should learn how to restring their guitar at least once. Doesn't mean they have to do it every time. It can be a pain if you don't have the right tools. But there's two tools that are perfect for it: string clippers and a peg winder. A peg winder just basically grabs onto these pegs and it turns it in a direction to tighten it so that you have, and also having the appropriate amount of winds. A lot of people are coming to me and they're like, man, my guitar does not staying in tune. I was like, yeah, because you have one wind of the string around the post. You don't have enough to grip it, so it keeps slipping and it keeps going flat. Um, Amply stretching the strings is also very important. And then intonation is the other thing I think everyone should learn how to do. On an acoustic, different story, but on electric, all of these, every string goes over. These are called saddles. This is called the stop tail. This is called the bridge, and these are the pickups. The bridge has saddles, and if you can see, there are individual saddles for every string on this bridge. Not every guitar is built this way. Some of them have three, some of them have acoustic guitars. Is usually one saddle that has a carved intonation points. You probably look at your guitar later and be like, oh, I see that. Because it handles guitars aren't perfect. And if it was a straight, see how it's kind of cut at an angle
Mm-hmm.
too? It's not perfectly straight. That compensates for the string diameter because the string diameter needs to be a certain distance away in order to be properly intonated, and usually use the 12th fret as the intonation point. So what all this revolves around is what's called scale length. So scale length means the distance of the nut right up here to the saddle. And most guitars are around 25 inches, 25 and a half is the most common, or 24.75 for like Gibson style. And what that means is that determines how far the frets are spaced away from each other. So a longer scale length means they're a little further away. Shorter scale length's a little closer. So people tend to be more solo-y and shreddy on a closer scale length guitar. And so what the saddles do is they adjust forward and back to compensate for string length, for string width. And that helps, like, you can see this G string, this third one right there is back a little further than the other ones. It if it was more forward, I'd play it at the 12th fret or the 15th, anything past, and it doesn't sound right. It's off. It's not in tune. So you play a chord and it just sounds like shit. So you have to adjust those. So I think everyone should learn how to do that. It's a fairly simple process. It's not scary. You have to have a tuner for it. Most, like the little white Boss tuners, they can do that. Most tuners can. I wouldn't use a snark for it, but if you are in a bind, it's fine. Snarks just aren't super accurate. They're a quick way to get to it, but I use very, very high accurate Peterson tuners they tune to like, the scent basically. So I have a lot of accuracy and I'm always checking, but guitars move too. That's another big thing is like, I think everyone needs to be aware of the fact that these things are X trees. They've been a tree and fairly recently they were trees. Some of them are older guitars were trees a long time ago, but it's wood. It's a living thing still, even though it's dead and we see wood every day, but we don't realize how much moisture affects wood. It fills the pores, it fills the fibers, and it expands and contracts, especially with the weather. So right now is a great example. When you're running your heater in cold weather like this, the way the heat pump works is it pulls moisture from the air and it creates heat. I actually don't know beyond that how much more it works, but it pulls moisture out of the air. So like your house will get drier and the air that blows out of the vents is hot, dry air. And so what everyone I think needs to get, I'll show you. I'll be right back one sec. The great way to save yourself a lot of money or pay me, I don't care. These little hygrometers, the Therm Pro is fine. They are $11 on Amazon, or you can go elsewhere if you don't want to support Bezos. I get it. It tells you the humidity and the temperature. There are really nice ones that are super accurate. These ones get me pretty much in the window I need. You want your guitar, electric or acoustic, to be within 40 to 60% humidity. Anything that drops below that, you'll see a lot more movement. Guitars can handle a temperature swing. You don't want to go from like freezing cold to hot right away, or vice versa. That snap will mess with the guitar. It can cause definitely tuning issues, obviously. So like you're at a hot music festival, you don't want to hand your artist their guitar in the cold air conditioned backstage. You hand it out to them when they're outside. Otherwise they go and play and it's out of tune. It sounds terrible.
Oh, wow.
They're like living things, right? And so being aware that they always move and humidity is the biggest kicker. It's more strong than because I keep my garage in between 60 and 70 degrees pretty much year round. Even right now with the heat, it's 61. So it's a little cold, but the guitars are fine. Um, I've toured when the guitars are down into the 40s and they're fine. They just have to stay humid. If they dry out on that, then those snaps are really more if a gradual shift in temperature is fine. Like like a normal day where if it's in like the 40s or 50s in the wintertime and it gets down in the 20s at night, it doesn't go that fast. In Nashville, it can because Nashville's a crazy lunatic, but the gradual shift is more healthy for guitars. So yeah, a hygrometer is great. Learning how to restring your guitar, at least trying it once, watch a video on YouTube, those help, or come to me, I'll teach you. Buy me a coffee or throw me some money or whatever. Like, you know, I'll hook you up.
Thanks, friend.
Yeah.
Coffee,
Or
I got you.
yeah, hell yeah. Or and then intonating is an important thing. Especially if you're someone who's working on the road as an artist, or and you don't have the ability to, the luxury of having a tech out there. You might play a show and you're like, oh my God, my G string sounds so flat up the whole neck or sharp up the whole neck. I need to fix it. How do I do that? Learning how to fix that. Um, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and for so many independents, there might be a long time between you starting the artist grind before making it to a place where you can bring on a team. So these are
hmm
such helpful tips when you're the one like loading the bus or loading the van, unloading the van, and then playing the
yeah,
show, like how to get yourself prepared.
yeah.
You mentioned you keep track of like all the instruments you've worked on. What's like the coolest guitar you've ever done any work on?
Oh, I don't know. I keep hitting cool guitars. So for me, I'm a left-handed player. I play
Okay.
left-handed guitars. So I
Is that weird that most people will probably bring you a right-handed guitar?
it's actually easier when I have a left-handed guitar. I start stringing it right-handed. I'm like, why does this sound like shit? And like, oh my God, I've done it opposite. I literally every time, even with my own guitars, I'm like, why does this sound? I'm like, oh my God, I did it again. And so sometimes I waste strings, like, but so that it can be kind of hard because you don't have the same frame of reference as a. I can play upside down, I can play chords, and it sounds fine, but it doesn't. It's not the same. It's just backwards. And if I play opposite, it's like starting over again from scratch. So I would say, man, I played. I worked on a really cool like '60s Rickenbacker this week. That was, I mean, the pickup sounded phenomenal. It's like an old USA made guitar. I mean, listen to any Tom Petty record, and that's that sound. But this sounded awesome. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Occasionally, I'll work on a guitar that just blows me away. Other times, guitars, people are like, "I love this guitar. This is so cool." And I play, I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind
Preference.
of
You
hard.
mentioned that before.
Yeah, sometimes I'll play a guitar that just like, I wish this was mine. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Even if it's like a right handed, I'm like, that sounds so good. Like a guy brought me um a Gibson J50 acoustic like a few weeks back, and we did a simple repair on it and setup, but it sounded awesome. It was a great sounding guitar. I rehabbed an old Gibson, like a vintage, like a 70s left-handed, actual factory left-handed Gibson acoustic that sounds so good. I mean, I track it and it sounds phenomenal in the mix without even doing much to it. Just it is meant for tracking, in my opinion. But the neck kind of feels a little fat for me, so it's a little hard to play because my hands, I prefer like a thinner, like modern style neck, and it's a little too,
Old
it kind
school.
of bites back a little bit. Even though I've done all the work necessary for it, I've done a complete overhaul on it. But yeah, that's a cool guitar. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of,
There's
I
lots of
forget
them.
about things sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's right. I worked on this guitar. It's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I know we've like teased the tour life a lot during our conversation today, but I just wanted to ask, like, what do you think is the coolest thing about being on the road?
Well, let's see. It's cool to be involved. And from the outside looking in, it might look a lot cooler. I don't want to downplay that it's not cool, but I just at the end of the day, it is a job, and I'm lucky to work where I work, and the brothers really take really good care of us. Like they pay well, they take care of their people. It's not the case in every camp. The music industry the entertainment industry in general is corrupt. There's a lot of bad players out there, and I'm really, really grateful. I think that's the coolest thing is I'm grateful to have people who are real humans who know what it's like to work, who, are good people. And I can genuinely say that. Like I don't know them super well, because I've only been with them for a year, but they've taken really good care of me. And I'm going to, run with that and stick with them for a while is the plan. And yeah, I think that's the coolest thing is finding a good gig and a good camp. Everyone that works in the camp is awesome. They become really good close friends of mine and yeah, they just it's a great job. I think the coolest thing about actually doing it, I mean, I get to work on really cool guitars. I get to maintain like, some like 1950s Gibsons on the road and listen to really cool amps. And it's kind of cool to sound check their music. And I'm like playing the songs and that's kind of cool sometimes. I mean, I'm playing left-handed upside down, whatever, but um yeah, it's cool to, just we went my first tour with them was in the UK in January of this year. And I didn't know anybody. I met everybody briefly, like the crew and stuff. Because in the touring world, you have the crew and you have the band. And in some worlds, those two are kind of like they don't talk, and it's like weird. Sometimes the crew can be looked down on. This is not the case in the Brothers. Everyone's kind of like in it together, and we all hang out. And like, not everyone's the bestest of friends, but
Colleagues.
we a lot of us like hang out and like it's like a equal footing kind of thing. But yeah, and like maybe in the past, like other bigger acts like had huge I don't know, maybe pick a glam rock band from the 80s or something. Maybe the crew wasn't treated as well or something, but it really just depends on the camp. I think that's a cool thing. Just traveling, yeah, going to the UK and spending 3 weeks there with kind of some strangers and it working out and we all liked each other and it was fun and just laughing. The crew hangs even with the bands hanging with us on the like or the brother like we all get to hang and just laugh and just shoot the shit and like roast each other and like it's fun. It's a really fun that makes it really fun because if again it's like the hang going back to the hang if it's not good then um yeah, and it's cool just to get paid to be in music and doing it. It's weird when you again zooming out like, whoa, whoa, here I am,
Yeah. What is like the one thing that came as a surprise? Like once you were on the road, was there anything that you were like either unprepared for or you're just like, oh, this is like an unspoken rule and I had to learn it real quick?
It didn't come as a lot of things weren't a surprise because my mentor was a road guy and my best friend has been doing the road for a long time. So a lot of friends of mine do the road. So it's like don't poop on the tour bus. Um, I knew that. And don't sleep with your head facing the driver. You sleep with your head the other way in case they slam on the brakes, you don't break your neck.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's kind of like the two main ones, and then in a lot of cases, don't talk about money. People do. I think people should talk about money more because everyone gets the different negotiated rates sometimes in a lot of the music world, and sometimes that can prove to be unfair in a lot of ways, especially for like say somebody who's been playing with the artist I'm going to be vague on the example here, but this has happened. I've heard it from many people, different camps. There's somebody playing for the artist and they make a certain rate, and the new guy he gets hired, and or he or she or whatever gets hired, and they make twice the rate. You're like, whoa, I've been here for 7 years. Why am I getting $250 a show when this person's getting five? So that can be unfair. So I think talking money is good, but it also exposes things where like, oh, this person's starting off making way more than I. And so it can be kind of a double-edged sword, but I think talking about it more helps people unite. And luckily, the group I work for, there's everyone gets treated and paid well. But I've gotten offers from other situations where I'm like, that's it.
Not
Sorry,
worth it.
I'm not leaving my house and my home shop when like that day I got it. They're like, we need a tech for like this weekend run. We have 2 days in advance to have somebody come out, and it paid very little. I was like, and maybe in 2002 I would have taken that, but right now I'm like, dude, and I got literally double the amount worth of work in that day. It was a busy day, but I'm like, sorry, I can't. Like, if you want to pay me my rate, here's what it is, and this is what we can do. So I think that's important in it too. But because it's a mystery industry, everything's kept secret, and so you don't really get to hear about like pick an industry. Say you were like, oh, I'm a data analyst. I want to go apply for a data analyst job. What's the average data analyst salary? You look on Glassdoor or Indeed or whatever, you'll find that information. There's no information on techs or musicians really. Like it just depends on the camp, depends on the person, and um I kind of want to see more of a unification of whether it's a union or something that where techs can and musicians can get paid. Like there are unions that exist for like musicians, but no one's standing up or negotiating on behalf of these people so they can, they can offer kind of dog shit rates to some people that might look good from afar, but then you see how much work you're actually doing and you're like, oh, why am I getting, oh, I'm doing the job of three people and I'm only getting paid for one that's not as good. And the previous person that had that position was getting paid more.
Hmm.
So it's a way for people to be management companies to be cheap sometimes. And it's also, I do want to note that it is very expensive to tour. It's very prohibitively expensive in a lot of ways. So I understand, but also at the end of the day, it's like, don't work for free. Don't work for a lower rate. Your time is valuable, especially when you're doing, you know, crazy big work. And you see these management companies, and a lot of times they make a lot of money, a lot of percentage off of the artist. You should also get paid appropriately, whether you're playing or teching. I just think people and it sucks because like as an artist I'm like, man, I want to pay people right, but even if I paid everybody like, which is in some cases good, in some cases bad, like $150 per show, and we like it's just one show, I still feel I'm like that's still not enough, but they're like happy sometimes because it's like music they want to play and it's like friends of mine, and it's like I'm not sometimes you got to learn music you don't want to play. And so, but you do that one show, that's almost $500.
Yeah.
How much are you making in that show? So you have to look at it as a business. It kind of gets disheartening. So that's kind of where I'm at with music, where I'm like, right now I'm trying to buy a house. I still releasing music. I have an album I'm going to put out next year. But in order to, advertise for it or market it, you have to have a budget. And some things have to be taken out of your budget in order to afford that. And so right now I'm like, well, I think the priority is to find a stable house that we can build equity and wealth and a life in, that I can also run my shop in and have a studio and stuff. And then I'll work towards, you know,
Growing the artist project, which
yeah,
I do want to
yeah,
dig into because
yeah, yeah.
Hotel on Fire. Where did
Hmm.
the name come from?
Oh yeah. So I was doing yoga at a tent at a music festival in my tent, and I may or may not have been on mushrooms, and I was thinking about death and how I don't want to waste my time. And it's kind of, if that hasn't been evident in our conversation, that's kind of stuff that motivates me a lot. And I was like, I remember months prior to this that music festival, I was like having an existential crisis at night one night. So I like looked to Reddit, of course, as one does for all sources of help. And some people were saying stuff, and one commenter was like, I think it's life is like a building that's on fire. Like that fire's coming for you. So you can either focus on the fact that fire's coming for you, or just enjoy the people that are around you on the floor that you're in. And so I was just on, my little moment in the tent, and I was like, oh my God, Hotel on Fire. That sounds cool. Also, it's like, what's the if you're the top floor of a hotel, that's like the penthouse suite. That's the coolest thing. So that fire is coming for us. Our time is limited. Use it wisely. Try to have fun with it. Try to enjoy life. Try to try to chase your dreams as reasonably as possible, and just go for it. Life's short. Just do it. Rip the band-aid off. Ask the girl out. Ask the guy out. Say what you need to say. Stand up to your boss. Stand up to someone who's, treating you poorly. Like, who cares? Say it how it is. Put out the song you want to put out. Sing in front of someone. Yeah, that's
I
kind of it.
love it. Oh my
Yeah.
God, such great advice. Also, really quick about your artistry because you have four singles that came out this year. The most recent was Change.
Yeah.
Um, I was like listening to your catalog and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I have no clue how to describe this when I was building your bio and I saw a note on one of your, I think it was either Spotify or Apple Music, in your bio where you're like, I just want to make music that I enjoy. But I'm curious, like, if someone was interested in tuning into you, like, how would you describe your sound?
And it's so hard. I've had a hard time. Progressive. It's in the progressive umbrella. So what I think of a progressive music is like in the 70s and 60s, you had prog rock, which is a huge thing. You had you have progressive. What that means is basically you have rock or you have jazz or you have folk, and you progress beyond that typical genre where you incorporate jazz elements, you incorporate, and it's not even stuff that you're even consciously thinking of. Like I'm deciding I'm gonna put a jazz chord in this song. It's like I feel that, it was whatever comes out of me. Sometimes what comes out of me is a country song. Sometimes what comes out of me, I just don't like to abide by a genre just because I can't consistently create the same sound every time. I have certain things I like. I like reverb on my voice. I like delay. I like tension and release. I like folk music. I like jazz. I like progressive me. I like anything that has a form that's maybe atypical from the norm, but still within approachability is what I kind of go for. I try to make catchy stuff because I like it. I don't know, just whatever comes out of me. That's kind of yeah. So progressive soul, progressive psychedelic
I
rock.
love
I
it.
don't know. It's hard. It's hard. I wish I had a better answer.
No, you're good. And one thing just for anyone tuning in, I'm definitely going to make sure I link all of Matt's music below, Hotel on Fire, the artist. And just one thing I really enjoyed about your music was how much you include an instrumental section in what felt like almost every song.
Yeah.
I think right now there's this like push to like sub 3 minutes, fit as many lyric as possible. And I'm a songwriter. I
Yeah.
love the lyric. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, but I love when artists get to play around with the instrument side too. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, do you ever see like those there's like a graph of like how long in different decades the instrumental intro would be for a song, and we're now at like
No.
under 10 seconds is the average. I mean, but you also have to think there's 80,000 plus songs uploaded to Spotify every day. You know how like it's a wild world to compete in. It's hard, but everyone's doing different stuff, but being in Nashville, you see a lot of it because it's an industry town, and so everyone's trying to create a commodity. Everyone's trying to get famous. Not everyone, but a lot of people are trying to get famous, and in doing so, a lot of times you want to do something that's within with the current, and that current can be something that's perpetuated by corporations wanting to make lowest common denominator easy to digest same formula that doesn't make anyone have to think differently. That way, that if it's something different, they expect people to not want to listen to it. But it's like, what happened in the 60s and 70s? Like, if the Beatles came out today, they wouldn't let it happen. Like, back then, those executives were crazy. They were taking risks on stuff. And I wish that was the case now because if you don't blow up on TikTok, you don't get a record label interest. And if you do get interest, it's probably a bad deal. They're going to take 80 to 90% of everything you have in perpetuity. Like it's not good. It's not every case. It's not every, deal, but I think that independent music is suffering and struggling, and whether I find success in that or not, I'm going to keep doing it. And I tend to have a more pessimistic view of it because I'm aware of the power that corporations have in our world, and it's really concerning. And I want to fight back against it. And I want to, for the people, I want people to. There's resources out there for us to start our own businesses and start our own lives, and to be smart about how we approach music. You can still be just as creative and also have a structured approach and make sure that you're taking care of people that are putting their time in for playing for you or producing for you, mixing. And it's like it's expensive to do it, and it's hard work, and that's why I hate was it Suno? Is that the stupid AI thing? I hate why? What are we doing? I no one
The wrong direction.
but unfortunately Warner Brothers is tied into it, Universal, everyone's Sony's involved with it, so it's like that is the future, whether we like it or not. And we have power in numbers but we also don't have power in how how these companies can facilitate government governmental decisions like IP law for big companies that protect them over the consumer. And so I'm hoping that we have a future where that can be more in the hands of the people, and I expect it to happen in the next 20 or 30 years, hopefully, but maybe sooner, but hopefully it doesn't, it's as non-violent as possible. But
Yeah.
and I also think of the music thing in that where I think we need to be making music that we want to make and not put ourselves in a box. Some people naturally want to write music that is kind of in that world, and that's fine. I'm not judging anybody, but I think a lot of people are doing themselves disservices when they have more. I think people have more to say than the same formula, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally.
Thank you for letting me tangent. I'm sorry. I'm a tangent boy and I just keep I'm like sorry, I'm just talking. I'm fired up lately.
Yeah. I think one day you're gonna have to bring back your podcast roots. I think
Oh, I
it's
wouldn't even talk about that. Yeah.
I know. That's okay.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me today. I
Yeah.
had such a blast getting to like talk all about your work and your artistry and the value you bring to artists and independent musicians with your work in the shop, and it was such a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's awesome, and I'm honored to share stories, and it's cool that you wanted to listen and were interested in it. Yeah.
Totally. Every time I have a guest on the show, I always end with the same final question, which is, what is one thing you would tell your younger self?
You're gonna be all right.
Simple. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
If this is the first time people are tuning in and getting to meet you, where can people find you online if they would love to follow along with your artistry and your journey?
Yeah, just start with Hotel on Fire on Instagram. It's pretty easy, and I have links to my other, my shop page, Working Order Guitars. But yeah, one of those two, Hotel on Fire. Yeah, stay tuned. I got more music coming out, and yeah,
Exciting. I'm going to have all those linked down below and really looking forward to what 2026 brings for you. It
you
was
too.
such a pleasure getting to chat with you today.
You too, Paige. Thanks.
And if this is your first time tuning into the So Rude podcast, make sure you follow along on Instagram and TikTok at sorude.podcast. By helping to grow the show and showing your support, I'm able to bring the incredible guests on who are willing to share their stories and their journeys and their tips, like making sure you keep your apartment at a certain temperature so your guitar doesn't get messed up. But all of that support is so helpful. So make sure to tune in. Also, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this show on, whether that's Apple Podcast or Spotify, or the video version on YouTube if you're interested. As always, have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll chat again soon. Bye now. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with every episode. See you next time.